Hello, welcome to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage. I am the director of the Cyber Education Research Center here at Murray State University, and welcome back to 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Grow West, the Technology Council of West Kentucky, KY Innovation, and our local partner, Sprocket Innovation in Paducah, and the Kentucky Innovation Station in Madisonville. Last week, you noticed a couple of things here on 10 at 10. First of all, we started a series talking about steps to improve your cyber hygiene. Last week, we laid out the foundation, the overview, what it means, why we care about it. And this week, we're going to start walking through some steps here. We're going to lay out some things that most of the things that I say today, you're going to have heard on a previous episode of 10 at 10, but I want to make sure that I reiterate them and share them with you today. Second thing that you noticed last week, and you noticed probably again today, is that in the name of our video, I'm starting to put the episode number. Last week was episode 75. This week is episode 76, meaning this is the 76th episode of 10 at 10. And I want to start doing that. I probably should have done it all along, but I want to start doing that to make sure that if I refer to a topic that we've previously addressed, that if I need to refer you back to that prior episode, I can do that. So that's something that we're going to try to start doing on 10 at 10. But with that said, let's get into it with cyber hygiene. Now, I talked about what it is and why it matters, but let me say one other thing before we get into the details. Cyber hygiene helps prevent breaching a network or makes it so hard that the criminal gives up and goes looking for other victims. What that means is that we always talk about, in security, I always talk about, let's address the low-hanging fruit first. Let's secure the low-hanging fruit first, then we can worry about doing the more advanced stuff. That's true. We need to do the more advanced stuff too, but let's do the low-hanging fruit first. We talk about that in so many different contexts of life and business and in different areas. Same thing's true on the adversary side. The adversary is going to look for those low-hanging fruit first. So if they come to you and you're the low-hanging fruit, then they're going to attack you. But if we can improve our cyber hygiene, then maybe we can make them want to go to the next company to find that low-hanging fruit instead of us. Hopefully that makes sense. And that just, again, goes back to why we're doing this and why we're trying to help address some of these things. Step number one to improving your cyber hygiene: create and maintain an IT asset inventory. If we don't know what we're protecting, how are we going to protect it? It's that simple of a statement. It's that simple of a question. However, the details can get more complicated. So let's start off with what's your crown jewel. If you think about your business, what is the most important thing, the most valuable thing that you have in your business? What piece of data is the most important? Now, a lot of people are going to say their most important asset is their people, and I get that. But as far as data goes, or maybe it's even a physical asset, but what is the most important thing in your business? Put it another way, what is the one thing in your business that if it went away, your business would cease operating? If it was stolen, if your secret sauce was stolen, would you still be able to have a business? What is that crown jewel? Where is it located? And who has access to it? Now, that's where you start. But every asset that you have, every important component of your business, you should know where it is and who has access to it. If you don't know where your assets are, then it's really hard to add security controls. It's really hard to figure out how to protect these things if we don't actually know where they're at. It should be a simple statement or a non-controversial statement. But for so many organizations, they have not gone through the process of actually doing an asset inventory. First thing you should do is to create that asset inventory and then maintain that IT asset inventory as well. All right, that's step number one. Step number two, This is probably the most discussed topic on Tenet 10 over the last now 76 episodes. Set and enforce strong password policies. Complex, unique passwords, two-factor authentication. Um, you know, the before last week, the episodes before talked about why unique passwords were important. Um, we need to have strong passwords. We need to have unique passwords. We need two-factor authentication. I think by now that you know that. But what I will add to this is that you, as the owner, you as the administrator, you as the IT person, you need to set those password policies and you need to enforce those password policies. There's some ways that you can do that. You can do that with internal controls. You can do that probably with some technical controls as well. You should have it written down. The users don't need to guess what the password policies are. You need to make sure it's clear and that you're telling them what you expect and what those password policies are indeed that they need to follow. All right. Step number 3 to improving your cyber hygiene is control and limiting administrative level privileges. That is including limiting who has access to the admin accounts. So in most systems, the average user does not have access to, for an example, who that can install software. Sometimes you may be using a browser and you need to install a plugin and you can't. Well, that reason that you can't do that is because you don't have admin rights. That's actually a very important security control. That's actually something that we don't think about a lot, and often for granted. We give you default admin rights, particularly to your machine and maybe to other systems as well. And in some ways, that's fine, but in many ways, and most of the time, that's a bad thing. It's bad because, first of all, you may inadvertently install software on your computer that you don't need to, and we'll talk about that in a next step. But also, if your account gets compromised, then the threat actor is going to have access to all of the systems that your account has access to as well. So you're giving that hacker, that intruder, more access than they need. You don't need to give them all that access. Let's stop and let's actually think about how we're doing that. The other part of that, and a real practical example, is that some ransomware will not only install, encrypt the data on your hard drive, it's going to encrypt the data on all the hard drives that you have access to. So every drive that you can encrypt, that you have permissions to, it's going to do that as well. And if you're the admin and you have access to all the accounts and all the drives, then maybe your whole network gets encrypted, and you definitely don't want that. So by default, limiting the admin privileges is important. And actually, let me take that a step further. And knowing who has access to those admin accounts is important as well. If I had admin access and I leave the organization, then what happens to my account? Is that just in there? Or if I needed it for a week and that was 5 years ago and I still have access to it, is that a good practice? There's a lot of things that can go wrong with that type of practice. So you want to make sure that you look at that. And then, as I mentioned, regulate how end users install software. And what I mean by that is that if you're limiting admin access, then a typical user won't be allowed to install software. So you want to be careful about what software gets installed. So you want IT ideally to approve before software can be installed, and you only want to install trusted software. A lot of times there will be malware that installs on your system along with another program that looks good, that looks legit, but it's not from a trusted source. So you want to make sure that you know what software is being installed and that you have IT approval to do that. So those are our first 4 steps of things that we can do to improve our cyber hygiene. We will continue next week. and continue walking through some other steps that we can take to improve the cyber hygiene of our organization. And these are great tips for our companies, our organizations, but also for our home systems as well. So I would encourage you to listen to and take these steps to heart because they actually really will help your company become safer in cyberspace. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And I hope to see you next week back here on 10 to 10. Thank you.